Hey there everybody, my name is Kat Bowser. I'm your resident fantasy therapist. Welcome back to my channel. Those of you here for the first time, welcome. My name is Kat Bowser. I'm a licensed therapist, also a writer working on my first novels for publication. And on my channel, I like to talk about what I consider to be the heart of writing, and that's the characters. And the heart of the characters is their psychology. So that's kind of the angle I like to take with everything I talk about on my channel. The psychology behind the worlds, the characters, the plot, all that fun stuff. So today I wanted to do a fun kind of trope video, and I can't take full credit for it. Jenna Moreci did a version herself, and I thought it looked like fun, so I thought I'd do one of my own. And that is talking about the top 10 hated tropes that you actually like. So tropes are always a fun topic to me because everybody has their favorites, everybody has the ones they hate. So I thought it'd be fun to talk about my favorites that aren't necessarily very popular. So I'd love to know what your guys's are, so feel free to drop those below and let's get into it. So number 10, child heroes. This seems to be a really hated trope. People don't seem to like a lot of child heroes unless you're talking about like middle grade stories, but I love child heroes in like adult stories, like stories that have deep messages and can get pretty dark and pretty well adult. And I love child heroes in those stories because I think children have a different viewpoint than adults, and throwing them into a story with adult themes, at least especially psychological themes, I think can be a lot of fun. Ever since I was a kid, I loved child heroes, and even after I grew up, I still found my favorite heroes were the kid heroes. So that hasn't changed for me, but I recognize I'm kind of a weirdo on that angle. Number 9, the pep talk. So this is essentially the hero doesn't think they have the gumption or the skills or whatever to do whatever needs to be done. And either their best friend or their rival, somebody pops in and gives them their much needed pep talk and gets them going again, essentially. I don't know why I like this. It can come across as cheesy. I'm very much aware of that, but I love the support behind it, like the emotional support behind it. And I like that you can do it in so many different ways. Like you can have like an actual like emotionally deep conversation, or you can have someone using reverse psychology. I see that one a lot, and that one's kind of fun. I like it because it kind of digs into the hero's fears and kind of puts them out for the reader, but in a way that I think makes sense psychologically, because we all have periods of self-doubt, and so that's why I like this one. Next one, the sarcastic BFF. This is a character you either love him or you hate him, and I have always loved the sarcastic best friend, with the caveat that that is not the sole wholeness of their personality. If all they are is sarcastic, that's not interesting. But if being sarcastic is a part of their personality and just how they interact with people, I love it, because it's a lot like my sister, honestly. So I grew up with this, and I've always liked sarcasm. I think it's a type of humor that I really understand and I really like. So I think that's why I have the attraction to this. And I also love the best friends that they clash and they fight, and sometimes they treat each other like crap, but they would also go to the end of the earth for each other. And so that's kind of the vibe I get from this one. Next one, the heartbroken stoic. So this is the character that has had their heart broken before, and they now do not believe that they can fall in love, and they've kind of closed off their emotions. Now, on the one hand, I do find this character very annoying because they're very, very frustrating. But on the other hand, I can kind of see why they're doing it. And I think it's an understandable response, if not the healthiest response. But this is one, though, that if they stay like this through the whole story, it really annoys me. But if most of the time what happens is they start to change over the course of the story and they start to open up again. And I think that is realistic. So that's kind of my take on that one. But again, if they're like this through the whole story and they never change, yeah, that kind of gets under my skin. But if it's used as a caveat for change and to show how they can grow, I'm all for it. Next one, plot armor. I shouldn't like this. As a writer, I shouldn't like this. But I do. I have a thing. I have characters that once I have fallen in love with them, I don't care how unrealistic it is that they survive. I just want them to survive. You could give me the most asinine, weird, out of nowhere reason why they did not die, and I'll totally take it. I'll acknowledge that it makes no sense, but I'll take it. I do know this can be overdone. You can definitely overdo this, but I think a little bit of plot armor in your story is not a bad thing, because you want your reader to love your characters, right? I mean, that's generally what we want. And I think it's okay to give them a little bit of plot armor to keep them around. Like I said, let's not overdo it, but I think a little sprinkling of it in there is okay. Next one, black and white morality. Okay, so this is one where I acknowledge that gray morality is much more interesting to watch. But for me, black and white morality can be just as interesting because the person is so set in it. And when people are so set in something and they will go to any lengths to preserve that viewpoint, that can lead to some really interesting scenarios. Like, I love the idea of someone who is so set in their viewpoint and they can't change it and they don't want it to change, that they will become so unhinged and so determined to know, I have to keep this morality because otherwise my whole viewpoint of the world is going to fall apart. And I think that is psychologically very interesting. So that's why I like black and white morality, is because I love to see the extent that characters will go to maintain it. And I think it's very entertaining, it's very interesting, and it really gives you an insight into people's mindset. So that's why I like this one. Next one, time travel, fix it. So I'll admit, this one is another one of those where you either really love it or you really hate it. And so this is a trope where somebody goes back in time to fix a mistake that they did. And I really like it because I think anytime you use time travel, one, you have to figure out what your rules of time travel are. Is it that everything is predestined? Is it you can't change the past? Can you change the past? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I like the idea, and it might be the optimist in me, but I like the idea of someone going back in time, fixing a mistake they made, and actually fixing the future for the better. I think that is a fun concept. But like anything with time travel, it has to be done carefully. Otherwise, it kind of becomes well, if anything goes wrong, we'll just fix it. Why is it only this time that you're allowed to go fix it? Give yourself limits. But that being said, I think it can be fun within reason. Next one, the all evil villains. Those of you who've been on my channel a while, you know this. I love a villain who just relishes in how evil they are. They just own how ruthless they are, because to me they're very entertaining to watch. And not everybody's gonna redeem. Not everybody's gonna say, oh, I see the error in my ways. It just doesn't happen all the time. So I like a villain that stays a villain, who refuses to have their viewpoint changed, who is so stuck on their goal. No, you're not going to change my mind. I'm not going to come around. You're going to have to pry this from me, kicking and screaming, over my dead body kind of thing. And I like that because it puts the hero in a moral dilemma. What do they do? And a lot of times I love it when the hero has to face their own kind of moral shortcomings. Like, okay, can I achieve this without, say, killing? Can I achieve this without sinking as low as they have? And I think that's very fun to watch. And honestly, all evil villains, they're hammy and they just live it up and they're hilarious. I love them. So that's where this one comes from. I put it on this list though because it's become much more popular lately to redeem your villains. And I am firmly in the camp of Not always. Give me a villain that stays a villain. All right, second to last one, happy endings. I love me a happy ending. I don't care if it's necessarily unrealistic. I want me a happy ending. Now, is this completely unpopular? Not necessarily, but I am seeing more of a trend for bittersweet or even unhappy endings. That seems to be gathering more speed. And I don't necessarily agree with it. I think it suits for certain stories. I got no problem with that. But there's this idea that that a happy ending is unrealistic, and I don't agree with that at all. I think when people say happy ending, they think like a perfection ending, and that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm just talking about an ending where the characters achieve their goal, they have their loved ones, and they can continue on with their life. That's a happy ending to me. And I'm all for those because, like I said, I get attached to these characters. I want them to succeed. I want them to get their happily ever after. So I will always defend a happy ending. All right, my number one trope that everybody else seems to hate, but I actually like, is the resurrection trope. Yes, this is very easy to do wrong. Yes, you should not do it all the time. But you can do it correctly. And I think in certain circumstances, it can add flavor to your story, because anytime you're messing with life and death, I think that opens the door for so many psychological things that you can pull up. And for me, the thing I find fascinating about the resurrection trope is nobody ever delves into what the person who is resurrected is going through. It's always everybody else's reaction. What about the person that has literally died and been brought back? That to me is just ripe for exploration. I want to know all about that, because the thing is, when we even experience a death in our family or our friends, we have a grieving process. We are literally changed by that process. How much more would we be changed by either ourselves or someone we love dying and coming back? I just think it's so fascinating, and I don't understand why more people don't jump at that. But like I said, if it's used strictly to bring back someone that the reader loves without any payoff, then yeah, I don't want it. But like I said, there's ways to do this correctly, and I think it needs to be utilized more. So those are my top 10 tropes that most people hate, but I love. As always, if you guys have any comments or suggestions, leave them below. I want to know your thoughts on this. What are your tropes that most people don't like, but you do? If you don't want to miss when I upload, make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you get notified whenever a new video goes up. I try to give you guys at least 2 a week. And until next time, hope you guys stay safe. Have a good one.